This happened a couple of weeks ago and is the scariest moment of my life. First, I need to explain that I often babysat a 2-year-old child while his parents had dates. One day my friend was looking after him, and at that moment the child began to talk to his grandfather. According to his parents, the boy never saw him because his grandfather died before he was born. From then on, when the boy stayed with me, I mentally prepared myself for something terrible. That evening, while we were in the living room, he started pointing at the empty wall in front of us. "Grandfather," he repeated, and repeated only this word. "The baby is only 2 years old and he hardly speaks." That's why I didn't ask him anything. Instead, to somehow distract myself, I started talking about other things. And then the child opened his eyes wide, grabbed the chair he was sitting on, chattered his teeth, and began to tremble violently. I almost went crazy. I grabbed the baby and said loudly that it was time to watch a movie before bed. Later that night, I was about to carry the boy upstairs to the nursery when I noticed that the front door was unlocked. I locked the door and tried the handle just in case. After that, I took the child and took him to bed. He was already almost asleep by this time. I was in his room for about 20 minutes. When he finally fell asleep, I left and went downstairs. The front door is directly opposite the stairs, and it was open again. I instantly thought of horror movies and decided to look around the whole house, but found nothing. I even checked the child's room. After making sure that everything was okay with the child, I went downstairs and just watched TV until my parents arrived. It was the strangest night of my life. When I was again asked to babysit the boy, I refused this idea for an hour. When I was maybe 6 or 7 years old, I spent the night at my grandparents' house. I was lying on the couch trying to sleep, but I heard whispers. They had a photograph of my aunt hanging on the wall in their living room, and the whisper came precisely from her. The painting sounded exactly like my aunt. She asked if I was behaving well. It sounds creepy, but I wasn't scared at all. One day, the aunt from the photo asked me to wake up my grandfather for a very important conversation. I woke him up, but when he realized that there was no one in the photo, he began to scold me. But suddenly grandfather noticed someone moving outside the window. He grabbed his gun and told me to stay in the room with my grandmother. A minute or two later, we heard a shot. It turns out that there was a prison about 30 kilometers from their house. 3 young men killed the guard and escaped. That evening, they looked around the grandparents' house to steal a truck and steal everything that would fit into the car. However, grandfather noticed them first. Everything ended well. I don't know why this photo spoke to me, but thanks to this particular photograph, we all remained safe that night. I live in the north of Switzerland. We have a lot of old military bunkers here from World War II. Many people say that the ghosts of dead soldiers live there. When I was 7 or 8 years old, 3 of my friends and I went to explore one of these bunkers that was built on a hill in a small forest. The main door was jammed, so we had to take it apart. We found a large log nearby and tried to open a huge door with it. After many attempts, the door still did not open, but there was a peephole on it. It was about 10 km in diameter. We opened it and shined a flashlight into the darkness inside. There was a long, ruined, and dark corridor with rooms to the left and right. We didn't see the end of the corridor. It was too long. We took turns looking inside until one of my friends said, "There is a small light at the end of the corridor." But there was no light when I looked through the peephole. So I pushed him away and took another look. What I saw made me shudder. There was no little light there. The light was more like a flashlight that was shining directly at me, and behind it stood the silhouette of a man. I took a few steps back and said, "Someone is there." At the same moment, someone knocked on the door from inside the bunker. Panic set in. We screamed and started running away. I was so scared that I ran all the way to the house until I locked the door from the inside. The next day at school, my friends and I talked about this event. We came to the explanation that the older guys were playing a joke on us. A week later, we went to this bunker again. But this time, the door was completely welded shut. It was clear that someone was opening the door from the INSIDE. I think it was a ghost.